Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story is about a dad who got tired of playing parking wars every Wednesday morning. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Blocking the blocker. Every Wednesday morning, like clockwork, my neighbor across the street has his yard serviced. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone deserves a nice lawn, right? But then the routine became painfully predictable. The landscaper's big truck and trailer would roll up right at 7:30 a.m. That just so happens to be the exact time I need to pull out of my driveway, drop my kid at daycare, and head to work. The first time it happened, I thought, okay, honest mistake. I figured I'd honk, wait a few minutes, and it'd get sorted out. Instead, I had to park my car, get out, march across the street, and find the landscaper buried somewhere in the bushes with his leaf blower strapped on him like a jetpack. He looked at me like I was inconveniencing him. "Hey man," I called over the noise, "that's my driveway you're blocking. Can you move your truck?" He gave me a nod, jogged back, and shuffled his massive trailer out of the way. Mildly annoying, but fine. Then it happened again, and again, and again. By the fourth time since April, I was boiling. There's only so many mornings you can wrangle a toddler, balance a travel coffee, and then play traffic cop before your patience snaps. That's when I decided no more. If this landscaper wanted to make my mornings miserable, I'd make his mornings impossible. See, our street has some very particular parking rules. You can only park on one side, the police patrol regularly, and tickets come quick. On top of that, I've got a fire hydrant right in front of my house, so there's no room to play games with squeezing in. Add in the fact that my northern neighbor always parks his pickup on the curb, and suddenly there's not much real estate left for oversized vehicles. So on a Tuesday night, while everyone was winding down, I made my move. I parked my wife's car directly in the sweet spot, the exact space where the landscaper always dumped his truck and trailer every Wednesday. I went to bed grinning, already anticipating the chaos to come. Sure enough, the next morning, I backed out of my driveway without a problem. My wife's car sat snugly where the landscaper usually blocked me in. Across the street, the landscaper rolled up and slowed down, clearly confused. He crawled forward, scanning for space, only to realize his golden parking spot had vanished. He tried creeping closer to the hydrant. No dice. That'd be a ticket in minutes. He looked further down the street, but with cars lining both sides, his trailer was way too big to squeeze in. My neighbor's truck cut off any chance of improvisation. Finally, with nowhere legal, or even semi-legal to wedge his rig, he had to keep driving. He ended up parking over a block away, muttering curses as he stomped around, unhooking his gear. I stood on my porch sipping coffee, watching him make 3 separate trips back and forth with a mower, a trimmer, and a leaf blower. Every trip looked more miserable than the last. I won't lie, it was glorious. For weeks, I kept up the routine. Every Tuesday night, I parked my wife's car in that sacred spot, and every Wednesday morning, the landscaper was forced to haul his arsenal of equipment half a dozen houses down the street, sweating and scowling the whole way. Did it solve my driveway problem? Absolutely. Did it make me feel like I'd reclaimed a little slice of sanity? Without question. The best part is I never had to argue, never had to call the cops, and never had to fight with a neighbor across the street. I just learned the rules of the game better than the guy trying to block me and used them to my advantage. Now every Wednesday morning I pull out of my driveway smooth as silk while the landscaper huffs past dragging a lawnmower down the block. And honestly, it's the most peaceful part of my week. Petty urban planning at its finest. You played traffic Tetris with the rules on your side, turned his park and block routine into an involuntary cardio circuit, and never raised your voice or a citation. And our second story. Cut me off at the passport control? Okay. Traveling by motorcycle has its perks and its pains. Anyone who's ever ridden one for long distances knows it's not exactly luxury transport. No climate control, no comfy seat to recline in, no chance to sip coffee while you wait. You're exposed to the wind, sun, rain, bugs, basically a pedestrian strapped to 2 wheels. But that pedestrian on wheel status does come with one beautiful advantage. At borders, motorcycles are allowed to bypass the lines of cars and head straight to the front. Drivers can sit cozy with their AC on while I fry in the sun, so it's a fair trade. On this particular trip, I was crossing into another country on a national holiday. Translation: everyone and their grandma was trying to get across. The car queue stretched for what felt like forever, a snake of exhaust fumes and restless families. I was the only motorcycle there, so I cruised past the whole line, pulled up at the barrier, and waited for it to open. That's when I heard it, shouting. A woman in the car directly behind me had rolled down her window, leaned halfway out, and was shrieking like I'd just cut in line at Disneyland. "You B! We've been waiting hours! Hours! I'm calling the police!" I turned, lifted my visor, and just stared at her for a second. She was red-faced, veins bulging, practically vibrating with rage. I considered explaining the law to her, but decided against it. Instead, I simply turned the volume on my helmet speakers higher and let her voice fade into the background noise. When the barrier opened, we rolled forward together. The setup at this border was simple: one booth, one line, whoever was first went first. Cars couldn't shuffle around me even if they wanted to. Still, the woman wasn't done. As soon as she parked at passport control, she jumped out of her car and stormed toward the officer, finger pointed at me like she was unmasking a supervillain. "He cut in line! I demand you stop him!" The border agent, unimpressed, shrugged and stamped her passport. Rules were rules. I was in front, she was behind, and that's how it went. She strutted back to her car afterward, holding her stamped passport aloft like it was a trophy. She even gave me a smug little smile like she'd just scored some sort of moral victory. I let her have the moment. After all, I had my own plan. Once my passport was stamped and my bags checked, it was time to get back on the bike. But putting motorcycle gear on isn't exactly quick, and on this day I wasn't in any rush. Helmet on, off again. Wait, forgot the balaclava. Helmet back on. Nope, balaclava crooked. Helmet on, adjust. Helmet on, gloves. Off again because now the helmet strap wouldn't lock. Gloves back on. Key in ignition. Oh wait, need to check the saddlebags. Tires too, why not? All the while, cars behind me were waved through, including her. She had no choice but to sit there watching me conduct the slowest gear-up ritual known to man. I wasn't blocking her. Technically, she just couldn't get around me until I was finished. Finally satisfied, I gave the officer a nod, revved the engine, and pulled away. At the next border crossing, I expected another round of theatrics, but this time she was quiet as a mouse. In fact, she even waited politely behind me while I got my stamp. Maybe she realized the system wasn't rigged against her, or maybe she just didn't have the energy for another meltdown. Either way, I didn't drag things out again. I suited up quickly and zipped off, leaving her behind without another thought. I'm not vindictive. Well, maybe just a little. And our next story. Before 9 and after 5 don't matter. I worked for a large brokerage firm in their mutual funds division. My duties included working on special projects for the controller, coordinating with the users on any issues that needed to be addressed, and working on automating all processes. I loved my job, and I was really good at it, as I had these various tasks. I had 2 computers so that I could run the programs that I was modifying while still working on other tasks. As I stated, I loved the work, since I basically did what I wanted to do with minimal, if any, supervision. Due to this, I regularly came in early, sometimes as early as 7 a.m., and staying as late as 7 p.m. I easily did 2 to 3 times the work of anyone else. I was always the first one in and generally the last one to leave. One day I took a lunch break, which was also rare as I brought my lunch and worked straight through. Unfortunately, I had some errands to run and I ended up getting back after taking an extra 10 minutes. I was summoned to my manager's office where he reamed for an hour over these 10 minutes. I had enough of this and asked him if he realized how early I got in and how late I stayed. His answer totally blew me away. He said, "It doesn't matter how early you get in or how late you stay. Only what happens between 9 and 5 that counts." Cue malicious compliance. I stopped going in early. I would take a walk or read a book until 8:45 a.m. I'd take a break mid-morning, take exactly 1 hour for lunch and another break in the afternoon. I would stop work at 4:45 p.m. and clean my work area. Exactly at 5 p.m., I would shut down my computers and leave for the day. He never said anything about this, as he knew he brought it on himself. All that resulted from this is he lost over 5 hours of work a day from me. Not long after this, I left for brighter pastures at an increase of total compensation almost 100%. It was possible as I went to a very high-scale investment firm. Later on, I found out they had to hire 3 people to do my work. Like they say, you don't know how good you have it until it disappears. And our last story. Squatters get outsmarted. Let me spin you a story from about 10 years ago, back when I was working for a property management company in California. We handled a whole portfolio of rental units, which meant we dealt with everything from leaky sinks to tenants who thought rent due was just a suggestion. But every now and then, something special landed on our desk. This one started off simple enough. One tenant in one of our properties decided to let a few of his buddies move in with him. Nothing unusual at first. Then, without warning, the tenant moved out, leaving his freeloading friends behind. No lease, no rent payments, no legal standing. They were just squatting. Naturally, we tried to do things the polite way. We reached out, sent letters, knocked on the door, tried to negotiate. But these guys, they thought they were untouchable. They flat out refused to leave and smugly told us if we wanted them gone, we'd have to take the legal route. They knew the system in California leaned heavily in favor of tenants, and they thought we wouldn't bother. But they underestimated how creative we could be. See, if tenants have rights, then all we had to do was make one of our guys the new tenant. Cue the plan. We found the biggest, meanest-looking son of a gun you could imagine, the kind of guy who looks like he bench presses pickup trucks for fun. We drew up a brand new lease with his name on it, gave him a 36-pack of Coors, a stack of pizza boxes, and the keys to the unit. His only instructions? Go inside, make himself comfortable, and don't move. So he did exactly that. He plopped down on their couch, cracked open a beer, turned on their TV, and acted like he'd lived there for years. It didn't take long for the squatters to come home. They opened the door to find this mountain of a man sprawled on the sofa with his feet on the coffee table, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and half-crushed cans. "What the hell are you doing in our house?" one of them demanded. The new tenant didn't even blink. He leaned back, popped another beer, and said, "My house, I got the lease right here. You got a problem? Call the cops." And that's exactly what they did. The police showed up, ready to referee the chaos. The squatters were practically foaming at the mouth, pointing at him, demanding he be arrested. But our guy calmly showed the officers his signed lease agreement. The cops read it, shrugged, and told the squatters, "He's legally allowed to be here. Tenants have stronger rights than landlords. Nothing we can do." You could practically see the blood drain from their faces. Their big advantage, tenant protection laws, had just been flipped against them. From that point on, we paid our guy to be the biggest nuisance possible. He cranked up the TV at weird hours, sang loudly in the shower, left beer cans on every surface, and generally made life so uncomfortable that the squatters couldn't stand it. They tried yelling at him, but he just smiled and cracked another Coors. By the end of the week, they were packing their bags. No dramatic showdown, no courtroom battle. They just gave up and left, tails tucked between their legs. Our hired tenant walked away a legend in our office. For the price of a 36-pack, a few pizzas, and some beer money, he'd solved what could have been a months-long legal nightmare. The squatters thought they had us cornered, but in the end, they were the ones outwitted, outmaneuvered, and outlasted by a guy who did nothing more than sit on their couch and drink beer. I would watch a show based on this. Squatters' rights negatively impacts landlords too poor to afford legal help. Not all landlords are rich. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.